BP's reckless disregard for safety.
Congressman Member Burgess is with us, a Republican of Texas. He has just come out of the hearing for a few minutes. He's the ranking Republican on that subcommittee. Congressman, thanks for stepping out to talk to us. Your colleague a few minutes ago, Congressman Barton, apologized to Tony Hayward for what he called a shakedown by the White House. He was referencing this $20 billion fund that BP has agreed to set up for relief and for damages. He said it set a terrible precedent. Your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, a week and a half ago, we were down at a hearing in Chalmette, Louisiana, and we heard from a fellow that runs a hotel down there, and his occupancy rate is near zero. He's taking out loans to keep his business afloat. And I questioned him at the time. I said, does anyone from BP co-sign those notes with you? And he said, no, it's just him and his wife. Well, if BP goes bankrupt, then he's left holding the bag for these loans he's taking out. I actually think BP should be co-signing those loans. Now, on the other hand, you've got the Attorney General sitting across the table. He's talking about filing criminal charges, and that does have a tough appearance for someone looking in on the outside.
Yeah. Do you find it inappropriate?
I find it inappropriate the Attorney General was present, yes.
But inappropriate that the White House would, in Mr. Barton's words, basically force BP to set up this fund when there is the possibility of criminal charges looming out there.
I don't think there was any question that BP was going to have to establish an independent method of payment because, again, people need some certainty. This poor fellow that was signing notes all by himself, if BP goes away in a bankruptcy maneuver, then he's completely exposed and just another unsecured creditor in bankruptcy court. So there does need to be some certainty. Some people need to know that there is a bottom to this at some point.
In a nutshell, Congressman, what do you want to hear from Tony Hayward today?
I want to know why, just like so many of the people you've heard in the opening statements. And we heard from widows last week who said, why was the culture of safety sacrificed ahead of profits? And that does seem to be a theme that has emerged. We've had previous hearings with BP. They were here in September of 2006 after a big spill in Alaska, and it was the same theme. They were in a hurry. They were trying to get things done. Well, I'm sorry, that doesn't get it. There are safety procedures that need to be followed, and really the federal government has a role to play in this. Where were the federal regulators when they were supposed to be monitoring these rigs and monitoring the blow-up protector and monitoring the cement job, and they just didn't do their job?
Congressman, the chairman of the committee, Bart Stupak, said he expects that Tony Hayward is going to be, in his words, sliced and diced before House members today. What can you tell the American people about what's going to be gained in all the hours spent in this hearing today? I mean, wouldn't Tony Hayward's time arguably be better spent working on how to plug that leak as opposed to preparing and sitting in these congressional hearings all day?
Well, but people do need to hear, because it was BP executives that were in charge. They were the ones who could have called a halt to what was happening on the well that evening that it blew up. This was not an act of God. This is not something that happened in 20 seconds' time. There were problems going on for months ahead of schedule, ahead of this thing blowing. And it was BP executives that ultimately had their hand on the switch that could have called a halt to this. And we need to hear from Mr. Hayward why that didn't happen.
And how much will he be able to tell you? We heard Congressman Waxman this morning say that the members really don't have evidence that the top levels of BP management knew of the problems on this specific rig.
Well, at this point, it's a question of establishing the narrative and how that decision-making came down. What were his briefings? What was he told about what was going on the well? We were told that this has been a difficult well to control. Okay, well, what were the briefings? What were his directives as a result of those briefings? Right now, we have none of that information.
Congressman Member Burgess is the ranking member of this subcommittee that will be grilling Tony Hayward today. We expect to hear from Mr. Hayward in just a couple of minutes. Congressman, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.